Ryan found the envelope on a Sunday. He wasn't looking for it. He was clearing out the spare room of his mother's house. She had asked him to come over and help move some boxes before winter, and it was tucked inside an old biscuit tin on the top shelf of the wardrobe beneath a folded scarf he had never seen her wear. He almost put it back without opening it. He didn't. Inside was a bank statement from 11 years ago and a letter handwritten on 2 pages in his mother's careful slanted script. The bank statement showed a withdrawal of $14,000, her entire savings at the time, cleared in a single transaction on the 14th of March. The letter was addressed to no one, or perhaps to herself. It was dated the same day. Ryan sat on the floor of the spare room and read it. 11 years ago, Ryan had been 24, 6 months out of university, and in debt that he had been too ashamed to tell anyone about. Not reckless debt. The debt of a young man who had tried to make something work and hadn't. A failed small business, a lease he couldn't exit, a credit card that had become a lifeline and then a trap. He had been drowning quietly in the specific way that proud people drown, still smiling at the surface, going under below it. His mother had known. Of course she had known. She was his mother. She had deposited $14,000 into his account on the 14th of March with a note that said simply, "For the tax bill, don't argue." He had assumed it was savings she could spare. He had thanked her, been relieved, moved on, rebuilt, and in the decades since had never thought to ask where exactly the money had come from or what it had cost her. The letter on the floor of the spare room told him. She had sold her car. She had cashed in a small pension fund she had been building for 6 years, taking a penalty on the early withdrawal. She had quietly borrowed $2,000 from her sister Carol and repaid it in installments over 18 months without telling Ryan that Carol was involved at all. She had done all of this in the space of 4 days. And then she had written herself a letter in her careful, slanted handwriting that said, "He will be fine. He doesn't need to know how. He just needs to get through this. That's enough." Ryan sat on the floor for a long time. He thought about the years since, the promotions, the apartment, the comfortable life he had built on the foundation of a morning he had barely registered. He thought about how many times he had been too busy to call, how many Christmases he had arrived late and left early, how many times she had asked for nothing and he had given her slightly less than that. He folded the letter carefully and put it back in the tin. He went downstairs. His mother was in the kitchen making tea, her back to him, humming something he didn't recognize. She was 61 now. Her hair was fully gray. She moved a little more carefully than she used to. Ryan stood in the doorway for a moment. Then he walked over, put his arms around her from behind the way he used to when he was small, and held on. She went still for a moment. Then she patted his hands the way mothers do, that particular pat that means, "I know, and I've got you, and it's all right, all at once." She didn't ask what had happened. She didn't need to. He didn't say anything either. Some things don't need words. They just need you to finally show up in the kitchen and hold on. Ryan called her every Sunday after that, not out of guilt, out of the quiet understanding that some debts cannot be repaid, only honored, slowly, for the rest of your life. She never mentioned the letter. He never mentioned finding it. That was its own kind of love. The people who saved you quietly deserve to be loved loudly. There is a particular kind of parental love that operates entirely in secret, that never announces itself, never asks to be seen, and would be embarrassed to be thanked. If you are lucky enough to have someone like that in your life, a parent, a sibling, a friend, the odds are good that you have no idea the full extent of what they have quietly done for you. Ryan's mistake was not ingratitude, it was assumption. He assumed the help came easily because she never showed him the cost. Most of the people who love us most work very hard to make their sacrifices invisible, precisely so we won't feel the weight of them. That invisibility is a gift, but it can also over time become a kind of distance. You don't need to find an old letter in a biscuit tin to start paying attention. Look at the people around you who have shown up quietly, who have never once handed you a bill for what they gave. Call them this week. Not to say thank you, that is too small for what they deserve, just to show up, just to be in the kitchen. Sometimes the most honest thing you can offer someone who saved you is simply your presence, without an agenda, without being late. It is never too late to start honoring a debt you didn't know you had.